We're back. One of the last videos from Junior Worlds. This video took place, I think, on, would it have been the Monday before the tournament started? I think. Yeah, it would have been the Monday before the tournament started. We had all gotten up early, and I believe we went to go check in as early as we possibly could at the Dynamic Disc headquarters. And as soon as we finished that, we both families, so Vanessa and I took Daniel out to Jones West to get another practice round, and my brother Luis and Michelle and Emily took Ivan out to Jones East, and he got a practice round. After that, they're both the practice rounds. We went out to Champions Landing just to see what was going on, and they had this Champs 9, Fun 9, something like that it's called. So we all played that, and we did doubles as a family. So it was Luis and Ivan versus myself and Daniel versus Michelle and Vanessa. So it was a pretty fun time. They were having some contests throughout the day. On hole 1, you got 5 attempts to land inside the red circle, and if you did, you won a prize. Daniel was able to land in there. I think Sunday we took him out, and he was able to land in there, and he got a Champs Landing t-shirt. They were also doing ace runs. You had to get it on film, and it was only the juniors that could qualify for the gift card. I think the first 10 aces that were hit got a $100 gift card to the Champs Landing store. I think when we had showed up Sunday, I think there was a total of six or seven aces that were hit. And then on Monday when we showed up and we were doing the family doubles round, I think they ended up hitting the last 2 or 3 aces. Somebody had aced off of 1, and I can't remember what other aces were hit, but there was a bunch of kids out there just throwing their entire bag at hole 1 and at hole 9 because they seemed like they were the more aceable holes. But it was a fun time. We just get the kids out so we weren't stuck at the Air BnB for too long. We just tried to do as many things as we could in town, things that were disc golf related or just going out and walking around town, whatever it was. We also got the chance to all go out and play Hammond Park. I can't remember after what day, or if it was after round 2 or after round 3. We all went out to Hammond Park, which is just to the right of Champs Landing. I think once you finish hole 1, it's on the right side across the street on this little park. That was pretty cool because I've never played there before, so that was pretty fun. I've never been to Emporia before, so this was new. Well, the Champs Landing, I should say, because we were in Emporia earlier in the year in March for Monkey Island, but we never made our way out to Champions Landing. So it was pretty cool being out here. There was a lot of people out there playing, getting their rounds in for I think 18-year-olds played here, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think the 15-year-olds did, but don't quote me on that because I couldn't remember. But yeah, we were just out here just doing something fun as a family, just doing a quick 9-hole doubles round. After hole 1, I think all of us got a birdie, if I'm not mistaken. I think we all started with the birdie. Everything was pretty short. Everything was like 260 and in. I don't think there was anything past 260 or 250, so everything was pretty short. You had some shot variety, like on hole 1, you're going from up top, throwing down. This one was a little bit of an incline going down. So it gave you some shot variety. A lot of these holes, a lot of players could probably get there with a putter or a mid-range, depending on your arm strength and your skill level. But overall, it was still pretty fun. Gave us something, again, as I mentioned, something fun to do. I know it got a little competitive there for a while towards the middle part when I think it was Luis and Ivan and myself and Daniel were all tied, I think, at -2 or -3. So we were kind of trying to see who would come out on top. So we were all kind of talking a little bit of trash between all of us. But I think this hole 2, Daniel and I Well, Luis and Ivan just putted out. I think they got the birdie. We got the par because that was our birdie attempts. I think Michelle and Vanessa got a birdie also, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so I think through the first two holes, I think Daniel and I were -1. Everybody else was at -2, I believe. I'm not looking at the scorecard, so I can't remember honestly what everybody was at. This one was 221 going kind of downhill a ways. It wasn't a huge incline. It was just you're throwing up on this little mound down to the basket there that you see on your screen on the left. Um, I would imagine that thicker brush right behind the basket plays as OB, but I don't think there was any OB for any of the signs. And if there was, we weren't playing anything as OB, so everything was in play. Um, because I think Ivan or Luis or both of them actually went pretty far past the basket behind, and I think they were in that thick brush stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel and I think, were pretty close to the basket. I think within about 5 feet or so. I think Michelle and Vanessa were pretty close, within about 5 feet or so. Um, oh no, so here's Luis going. I think he goes pretty far. I think Ivan already went, but I wasn't really paying attention, I guess. Yeah, so he landed in that thicker brush stuff down there at the bottom. Okay, so this is me. So I think I'm the last one to throw. And it was pretty warm this day. I would say it was still pretty early. I think it was barely 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock, and it was pretty hot. It was a little bit humid. I don't know why I wore the black pants. I was kind of rethinking that throughout the halfway point of this round. So uh, I know I was pretty warm, pretty hot, pretty uncomfortable at that point. So we have Luis here going. This is their birdie attempt. I guess they weren't too far out. I thought they were a lot farther. I would say it's about edge of circle, maybe inside of the circle. Daniel on this one, as far as commentary, he's not joining me because I'm actually doing this while he's in school. I was actually off early, and I wanted to try to get the video done as quickly as possible, just to try to get the content back up on the channel. It had been a couple of weeks since I posted a video. I think the last videos that I was able to get up on the channel were all of the Junior Worlds competition stuff that were recorded for either Daniel or Ivan. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check that out, go to the channel and go check that out, because I think I did it 6 days in a row. I think I started with Daniel's doubles round with a new friend he made in Nicola Quaddy out of Wisconsin. They had his dad had reached out to me and asked if Daniel was interested in playing with his son, because this was his son's first year playing a Junior Worlds event, and I thought that would have been cool. So initially, Daniel wasn't going to play it just because of scheduling things that were going on between my wife and I, and then also our daughter still was in volleyball camp during the summer, because she did a lot of volleyball stuff throughout the summer. So eventually we were able to make it work, and I thought that was probably the coolest thing Daniel or I have got to just watch. I mean, Daniel to play in, I think that was cool. He got a chance to play on a card of two other teams, so it was 3 teams total. Uh, I can't remember the other two boys' names, but he got to play with Hudson and Seven, so that was pretty fun. He knew at least 2 other players on his card for the doubles event, so I know that made it pretty fun. I know the kids all seemed to enjoy it. They were all laughing and joking around, running around. So I thought that was pretty cool. So it was sanctioned, but it was still pretty laid back. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I think after that, the second video on the channel then is Ivan's round one, his first round of his first ever Junior Worlds that he's attended. He took on Jones East, I think. Don't quote me on that, because I know when I was doing commentary with Ivan, he corrected me a couple of times because I was getting it wrong. So I'm pretty sure it's Jones East that he played. So that was pretty cool to have his first ever round recorded and up on the channel, so he has something that he could always go back and look to for his first worlds that he's ever played. And then the final 4 days of videos were Daniel's rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those were pretty cool. I was able to do his all four of his rounds last year in Tulsa for his first ever Junior Worlds, and I know that was pretty eye opening for the both of us just to see the amount of kids playing. Because as I mentioned, I think in one of those videos or maybe a couple of videos before, you don't go to a lot of tournaments and see a lot of junior players playing, and if you do, it's very few and far between. Maybe five, maybe four, maybe less than that. So to see over 400 some kids playing a tournament just for them is always pretty cool. Because I think I mentioned it before, also, the kids playing now are the kids that are going to take the sport into the future and continue to grow the sport. So I thought that was really cool. I know Daniel enjoyed his time. I know he made some new friends. He I thought played some of his best disc golf the last 3 days or the last 2 days. You could say the last 2 days because he did a good job at Peter Pan round two. He just had some unfortunate breaks, but his rounds 3 and 4 were pretty solid. Where he shot his two first ever rounds under par at a major tournament like this. So that was really cool. He was able to finish -2 for round three and -3, or no, excuse me, -2 for round three, -3 for round four. Where round four he potentially could have finished -6 or better. He just had two holes that unfortunately had just got him. One was a double bogey, one was a bogey, but he was able to fight back after getting back down to even to get back under par. So he showed a lot of fight in those last, I think, seven holes or 8 holes or whatever it may have been. So that was really cool. Um, and then Ivan, I mean, Ivan never gave up. I know he had a lot of expectations going into Worlds, but with him barely being, well, he was 12 at the time of him playing. He just turned 13 just man, I'm bad with birthdays. I think 7 or 10 days ago. I think somewhere around there he turned, well, no, I guess I don't remember, but I know everybody will laugh when they watch this one since I'm not very good at remembering birthdays. But yeah, so he just recently turned 13, so he was 12 when he was playing in the 15-year-old division. So that was kind of a little bit of a disadvantage for him. Ivan does play quite a bit. He is pretty consistent. He has a pretty good arm. He is mostly sidearm, which, if you noticed here on this hole that everybody was just throwing on, he threw a backhand, which his backhand has been coming a long ways, and it's something that I know him and I have been working on, or he's asked me for some pointers. It's the same thing I'm doing with Daniel, is working on his backhand, because I know how important that is to have both a forehand and a backhand, especially when you play courses that are pretty technical and require specific shot. If you're not comfortable throwing a turnover forehand or backhand, then you have to rely on one of the other throws with one of the other techniques. So yeah, both of them are working on that, and in the hopes of getting that to a point where they are pretty consistent and confident with it. So going into next year to 2026, they can try to use that a lot more in any of the tournaments that they have, and just be confident in anything that they're doing on the course. So that's something that both of them are working on. But going back to Ivan, yeah, he had a bit of a disadvantage, um, just because of his age. I mean, there was kids that were already 13 going to be 14, kids that were 14 going to be 15. So kids that are a little bit older than him, maybe a little bit stronger than him, so it a little bit of a disadvantage. And I know he had high expectations of himself, as I mentioned before, and that was one of the things that I also tried to talk to him with, excuse me, is just making sure that his expectations weren't too high, because that can then defeat you if you don't reach those expectations, especially at something like this. So that's something that him and I talked a bit before Worlds, and then during the week of Worlds, and mainly it was just, this is your first time. You're going to have nerves, even if you don't think you have them. They're going to be there. Just play like you always play. Don't force anything. Don't do things that are uncharacteristic of yourself. And I know that he kind of got away from that, and I think he mentioned it when he was doing commentary with me, is that he started to do things that he probably shouldn't have done. I know he mentioned that his dad told him a couple of times to just, play the hole to get par, or if you can push and potentially get close to a birdie, then go for it. But there were several holes that he didn't have the arm for to get all the way there, that he just needed to basically play to cut the hole in half or a little over half, and then just get up and down for par. But he even mentioned that he just didn't listen. He tried to go for a couple of holes that he probably shouldn't have gone for. He forced it, and then that caused him to take some additional strokes that he wasn't anticipating on doing. But overall, I mean, I think that was a learning experience for him. I think that's going to help him in his decision making and his thought process of him going through and just playing right, because as you get older, you kind of have to think of what can I do on this hole versus what can I not do, and then kind of go from there. So we're through hole 6 here so far. I can't remember what we're at as far as score wise, and I don't know if I can check the scorecard without stopping the recording on the commentary here. But um, I want to say Luis and Ivan, Daniel and I were all pretty close. I think at this point in time, Michelle and Vanessa, I think, were on -2, -3. So we kind of had passed them. They pretty much had to birdie out these next 4 holes or next 3 holes to either tie or get pretty close. Um, so at this point in time, I think it was just between my brother and Ivan, Daniel, and myself. Um, I know Daniel was kind of just throwing a bunch of different shots that he typically doesn't throw. You guys saw him throw a big Annie there with his Thrasher. He was just trying to play for distance, and I think he was trying to do a roller, if I'm not mistaken. Ivan went with the backhand, but he unfortunately turned his over way too much, where it just held that turn all the way and just continued to carry to the right. So I think Daniel's going off of my throw. I was just throwing a bunch of spike hyzers a lot of the times. He had a pretty good birdie there from pretty close to edge of circle one, because I didn't have my bag. I took Daniel's cart and his bag and a bunch of extra disc for him, just in the event that he lost something or we needed something else, depending on the weather, because it wasn't actually very windy. Emporia is typically known for it being pretty windy, and it wasn't. So it was pretty calm, about what you see here with it being pretty still, maybe 5 miles an hour or so, or just a little bit over. That's as bad as much as the wind as there was all week. So that was different, because I know typically Ivan and Daniel play in tournaments or back home in anything above 10 miles an hour. So that's pretty normal for us when we play. So for them just to have pretty decent conditions, other than it being a little bit humid and hot, that was all. So everybody, I think, is tapping out here on hole 6, and then we'll move on to hole 7. Um, I think we got pretty close on a couple of holes to acing. I know Daniel and I think it was Sunday. It was him and I. We just went out and played just to try to see if we could get an ace. He got pretty close on one. I think he got pretty close on hole 9. That one's a little bit of an uphill throw that you're throwing. He got pretty close on that one, but we did end up throwing a lot of his bag to try to get that one. So this one's pretty short. It's pretty straight, just dead center. Daniel had a good throw. His nuke just went and carried to the left, hit that branch. I don't if it doesn't hit that, I'm pretty sure it skips up and is right under the basket. I think it was the same with my brother. He was just throwing a bunch of mid ranges. Outside, I think, of hole 5, I think everybody might have thrown like a fairway or maybe a driver, but I think everything else, most of us were just throwing just some putters and some mid ranges. We weren't really playing to try to get every hole. We're just having some fun out there. So I think I thought Michelle was gonna go with the forehand, but she went the backhand. Yeah, that's, I don't know. You can't tell from the video. I can't remember if it was short or long. And then you have me coming up. I think this was a fairway, maybe. I can't remember, because a lot of these discs were Daniel's discs. That one got pretty close. I think it actually hit the basket, or did it hit the post underneath it? I can't remember. But that one was pretty close. I think that was the closest I got to one of these holes. Uh, Everything else I think was just to the left or to the right of it. I don't think I got any closer to any other basket there. Ivan, I think, was throwing his swarm right there. Yeah, I think he was pretty much parked or just a little bit past. I think he had kicked off the one of the blocks marking the tee. And I think that was the last throw. So now I think everybody's going up to go to throw. So yeah, so that we went off of Daniel's throw on this one. So um, he didn't feel comfortable standing up and putting with that branch just kind of hanging in front of his face. So he's going to go ahead and put it from a knee. But Ivan called him on the foot fault because he went forward. So he told him that didn't count. That one was right off the cage. And that one was in for birdie for Vanessa and Michelle. So now I have to try to make it from Daniel's spot since he was called out by Ivan on the foot fault. So I have to make this at least to save our birdie, which I did. And I think Ivan was pretty close because I think they went with his throw. Or I actually went a little bit past. So, and again, I can't remember what the scores were at this point. So I know that at the end, Daniel and I ended up winning by one stroke. And I think it's because of this hole. His throw, I think, was outside of the circle one. And since I didn't have my normal disc and I can't throw forehands, I think I went with one of his very overstable discs. I think it was his max. And I tried to do it on an Annie and just play to skip it up towards the basket. But it ended up skipping like 40 past the basket to the left. Yeah, so you see a lot of the kids out practicing out out the course, so that was pretty cool. And I've never walked the actual Champions Landing course. I really wanted to go over, and I can't remember what hole it is where you're throwing over the pond. I really wanted to go and like buy a cheap used disc and go throw that hole because I thought that would be pretty cool. Just have everybody throw a quick one throw on that one to see who could get on the island. But we never got the chance to do it, and I didn't want to just go do that and take up somebody's spot or just kind of delay somebody that's playing through to get their practice round in. So yeah, so this is my throw. I think it was his max, if I'm not mistaken. I think I was throwing that. Try to put more ante on it, but it came out more flat, so it skipped. Yeah, you could see it skip way past the basket to the left. Um, so we ended up going with Daniel's throw, and man, I can't remember. So I can't remember if we were all tied at this point, or Luis, Ivan, and I. And I want to say that Vanessa and Michelle actually came back, and they might have tied whoever was in second place, or they ended up in third place, one shot off of second place. But I can't remember. Yeah, because I think they're taking a part here. I don't think they made this one. So Michelle's going next because I can't remember how close Ivan and Luis were. They might have been really close actually. So yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, so Ivan's disc is I think 5 feet from the basket. So yeah, this is our putt. So I went first. Daniel wanted me to go first, so I went and made it. Pretty lucky because I don't putt that often. Um, so I went and grabbed that one for Ivan so he could putt out. And I think Daniel was trying to get Ivan to laugh while he was putting here, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah, he's right here. So Daniel was starting to talk to Ivan, trying to get him to laugh and miss the putt. You can see Ivan kind of giggling. All right, so now this is the last hole. So this is another one that Daniel and I on that Sunday were um, trying to ace. We ended up throwing, I think, his whole bag. I think I only threw two of his discs, but he ended up throwing everything. try to get as close as he could. That was pretty close. He just went, I think, past the basket. So it just crossed right behind it. But yeah, I don't think we ever saw the ace or anybody hit the ace. I just know we could hear somebody yell that they hit the ace on one, and then when we saw the kid running down to get his disc, but we actually never saw anybody hit it. We just saw, or we just heard somebody hit it, and then that kid running down to go grab his disc. But I think, yeah, I think by the time we either left this or maybe by the next day, I think somebody had already hit the final A. So all $100 or all 10 of the $100 gift cards were spoken for. So after that, I think they were just doing either, was it $25 gift cards after all 10 of those were hit, or they were doing some type of gift from the pro shop, um, which is up by hole one. But they were doing other things. They were having putting competitions that you could register for. Your first round was free, and every round after that, I think, was five additional dollars. And they had prizes for those. They had a karaoke or a trivia night. Uh, I think either Tuesday or Wednesday, but we never went to that one. So they had a lot of things going on. I know the players' party was pretty cool. It was outside at the Emporia State campus. They had food trucks and everything there. Um, there was a lot of vendors, a lot of people there, and they set up a little mini 9-hole course with those miniature baskets, and they had the junior minis, um, and that was pretty cool. Ivan and Daniel, and I think Emily went with them too, and they were kind of throwing around, and then I think they met up with Seven and somebody else, so they were all kind of running around throwing those junior minis around at those mini baskets. So that was pretty cool. I think, did everybody throw yet on this one? No, I think Vanessa's the last one here, and then I think everybody has thrown. I don't think we all tried to throw as many as we could to try to ace it, because I think there was somebody following us, if I'm not mistaken. So we were trying to play as quickly as possible to not slow anybody down. But I can't remember. I can't remember honestly, because it was pretty full there. Yeah, I think Ivan and Daniel threw another one right there. Oh, Daniel did go pretty far, so he's picking up his disc now. This was Ivan's birdie attempt. So yeah, so it might have been the last hole that put us ahead, and even if we didn't birdie this one, or maybe it's this hole, maybe they just tied it with that, so we needed to miss it to end in a tie. And I think we were all saying if we ended in a tie, then we were going to go through a hole one and throw off on that one to see who would win. But I think, yeah, since we didn't go with Daniel's, mine has to be pretty close. So I think Daniel just had to tap it in. And I think that's what, because I know we won by one stroke, and I want to say it was either -7, and then I think Luis and Ivan were minus. No, no, no. Yeah, no, we were -7. I'm pretty sure of that, positive, because we didn't get two holes, and that means Luis and Ivan finished at -6, and Vanessa and Michelle either finished -6 or they finished -5. But either way, it was still pretty fun. Again, we weren't doing it competitively. It was just to go out and have fun and just get out of the house. And then you have Emily here putting one and making it. And then she's going for two and makes it. All hyzer. Oh, no, we're going with three. And she makes it. All hyzer. That one hit top band. So that was pretty fun. I thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned, and hopefully we have some more content coming out here pretty soon. Frontier's coming up, so that will be filmed for Daniel. So all three of his rounds, if he's playing all three rounds, will be filmed. So stay tuned for that. Thanks.